Do you know what? In the 80s, I think all of those bands, there was a lot of sort of rivalry. You know, actually, I love Simon. He's probably my favourite journey after Roger the drummer. Yeah, we definitely had a few scuffles.
Heart 80s Breakfast with Simon Beale. It is such a pleasure to welcome a true music icon. You might know him as part of the 80s band Bow Wow Wow for about 3 weeks. He's probably better known as lead singer of Culture Club and still doing it 43 years later. Amazing. Boy George, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm gorgeous.
Was it just 3 weeks that you were in Bow Wow Wow?
Maybe 3 months, but with some gaps. You know?
So was you starting Culture Club like revenge for being thrown out of Bow Wow Wow, or was it just you were determined to do your own thing?
It was a little bit of revenge, but also I decided before I joined Bow Wow Wow that I was going to do music. You know, I'd kind of, you know, sort of the end of punk, and all my friends were in bands. Spandau Ballet, Sade was starting out. There were a lot of people doing music. And I thought, I'm going to do that.
Listen, so much to talk to you about. First up, new solo album. It's called SE18. It is out now. What I've heard of this, by the way, I love. Your vocals are sounding so good at the moment.
Thank you.
What can you tell us about this album?
I went off albums for a while, and then I suddenly thought, no, albums are great. They're like books. Yeah. You can tell a story. You can, you know, so what I do is I just keep writing, and then every so often I go, oh, that feels like an album. So I will be, and also because it's my first vinyl-only release, so it's vinyl and CD only, no streaming.
So why have you done that?
Because streaming is a waste of my time. You know, the most streamed song last year was The Crying Game. I didn't even write it. I mean, it's great, but it's so interesting. I think my fans want product.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just a bit more personal than a stream.
So if people want to get hold of the album and the CD, is this where they go to, is it Elastic Stage?
Elastic Stage. And funny enough, when I put an EP up on there about 6 months ago, and they took it down because they were like, they didn't believe it was me.
Boy George's new solo album called SE18. It is out now. You can get it via Elastic Stage. And actually staying in the South East London thing, Culture Club headlining the Uptown Festival on Blackheath, Sunday the 27th of July. This is very much on the sort of doorstep of your old stomping ground. Doing a gig there, is that quite special for you, being in that part of London?
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I was 17, I ran screaming from South East London, vowing never to go back, you know. But then over the years, when I started DJing, I started doing a lot of clubs like, you know, Bexley Heath and Dartford. And suddenly, from sort of being chased out of Woolwich, below were like, you're one of us! You know, it was like I kind of got embraced again through the rave scene. And, you know, obviously, I'm older now, and, you know, I look at, you know, that my sort of teenage years with a bit more sensitivity and nostalgia. Yeah. So I feel like, you know, I'm comfortable with being from the Southeast.
So what can we expect from a Culture Club gig? Because I know you did this tour at the end of last year with Tony Hadley and Heaven 17, where you did your first 2 albums in their entirety.
Yeah.
So you said the set list was sorted already, easy, no arguments.
Yeah.
How do you decide what you're going to perform at this?
Now that we've played those songs, we're now adding them into the set, which the fans love. So we're not sticking to the format of the records, but we're doing White Boy, and I feel like sometimes with Culture Club, I was always the one saying, why are we not doing stuff from this album? Why do we only ever do that? You know, and it's like, you've got so much stuff that the fans, you know, they want to hear Karma Chameleon, but they also want to hear like The Dive, or they want to hear something random like a B-side, like something like Love Is Love. There's so Mistake Number 3. It's interesting when you ask the fans, they always come up with like the weirdest B-side. You go, what?
Stuff you've forgotten about.
Yeah, like, don't even remember it.
So when you come to decide where you place the big songs like Karma Chameleon, do you always do it at the end? Is it always the big finale?
On my tour last year, I opened with it in a few places.
Did you really?
I've never seen people running so quickly into it.
Can we talk about Karma Chameleon? Because I think just the size of success for this is one of the biggest selling songs in the UK ever.
It just takes people back to a time in their lives where perhaps they were more innocent, but it's also one of the songs that everyone hates. Like I did my friend's wedding a few weeks ago, Fat Tony, I did his wedding. And he said, will you sing? I said, yeah. He goes, whatever you do, don't sing Karma Chameleon. I said, I'm absolutely singing it because your mum's going to be there.
Yeah.
And this is not for you. And it was so funny because he was like, you were right to sing it.
Well, didn't you say even the band didn't like it? When you first performed it to them and said, here's the tune, they weren't so keen.
No, they weren't keen at all because it was sort of country and, you know, they were into Shalimar and they were into like, basically Culture Club always wanted to be in Duran Duran.
Right, okay.
Fact to life. They always wish they were in Duran Duran, but tough they weren't, you know?
Yeah. Is this where your riff with kind of Simon Le Bon came from? Because I know when you met to do Band Aid, and you put your arm round him, which was a really significant move to sort of show the press, listen, we're laying our egos at the door here. Is that where that stemmed from?
Do you know what? In the 80s, I think all of those bands, particularly, we all thought we were like the best. We all thought everyone else was rubbish and how dare they have hits. And it was a lot of sort of rivalry. But, you know, actually, I love Simon. He's probably my favourite Duranie after Roger the drummer. Yeah. I feel they're my two favourite Duranies. But, yeah, we definitely had a few scuffles. There was this one time I was in Paris, I made some comment about one of his girlfriends and he stood up and told me to apologise. And I was like, no. And my heart was pounding. I thought he was going to beat me up.
You're playing your stubborn card.
And then later on, obviously when we did Band Aid, I saw him and we were like, oh, whatever, you know. Yeah. I mean, I've been to see them a lot.
Actually, that Band Aid day, it did feel like everyone just put everything aside. It was quite unique. It must have been quite a whirlwind for you because you obviously turned up quite late in the day, flying in on Concorde, having been in New York. I mean, it's amazing when you think about it. And yet, what did you soak up from those few hours that you were there?
Well, first of all, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Okay.
It was a bit like Bob had called me. He was Irish. I was like, he's a good Irishman. My mum will like him. Okay, he wants me to come and do this. So I was like, okay, you know, I went. And but like everyone, I really didn't know what I was walking into. It was only when you got there and you go, oh, okay, everyone's here, like everyone.
Let's just talk about some of your other early hits, because something I hadn't realised until the other day was every song you put out at that point was top 3, top 4. So Do You Really Want to Hurt Me, obviously number 1. Time Clock of the Heart, which I love, number 3. Church of the Poison Mind, number 2. Come a Chameleon, number 1, everywhere. Victims was number 3. It's a Miracle was number 2. War Song was number 2. When you hit that level of success, do you feel a bit like, well, we'll do everything right here now? We've got the path set straight. There must be a level that draws you into we're untouchable.
I don't think so. I think it's the opposite. I think that, you know, when you write songs and you get caught up in that chart thing, you get pressure. And suddenly it's like nothing's good enough. You know, the last album sold this and this one didn't sell as much. It is a pressure that, you know, kind of can get in the way of creativity. There's too much competition now, I think. You compete with everyone, but there's a freedom now that you didn't have then, which I really enjoy. Like, you know, because you can write about anything. There's nothing stopping you writing about whatever you want.
So do you feel more creative as a result now?
Yeah, because I think I've learned to get out of my own way. Everything I hear, I write down. If someone says something funny, I go, oh, that's a good line, you know. And I've got great people around me. So the iPhone, just write stuff down. Yeah. You know, don't think you're going to remember it. If you hear a great line, write it down. Yeah,
see, this is where I'd be a terrible songwriter, because I think if I started writing something that I thought, oh, this is quite good, I would quickly realise it's something I've heard before or it's been written before.
If you look for, I think, song titles, one of the things about like being a Bowie fan and a Mark Bolan fan is that growing up, they had the most insane song titles. You got the album, be like, She Was Born to Be My Unicorn. Well, you know Gary Barlow's not going to write that. So look for things that other people won't write. You know, that's why Bowie was great, because he had a wide palette of what he wrote about. He wrote about really interesting things. I found out so much about, you know, other artists, Bob Dylan, Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, poets like Cahill Gibran. There's so many things I discovered through listening to Bowie records, because he would write mad lyrics.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do. I write about things that mean something to me.
Can we just do some quick fire questions to round off? Okay. How many hats do you have?
Probably about 600.
Do you really?
Yeah. They're everywhere, in cupboards. Open the stock drawer and there's a hat, you know, under the bed. They're everywhere.
How many do you take on tour with you? Do they stack inside each other? Does that help?
I've got like these big, massive drum boxes, and it's hilarious because you travel, and obviously when they always open them and they always say, "What are they?" And you're like,
hello.
You've never seen a hat before.
You have worked with so many famous people. Do you ever get starstruck?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, I sang with Stevie Wonder and I was like, oh, my God, what am I doing? I was so terrified. I was like literally just like shaking in my boots. Luther Vandross.
Wow.
Dionne Warwick. I've sung with some amazing people and I wish I could do it now.
Yeah.
Because when I was like 21, I was like so scared. Now I'd be like, come on, let's do it.
Bring it on. What about the first time you met Bowie? That must have been overwhelming.
It was so beautiful and so exactly what I wanted. I just, like sometimes you meet people and you think, oh, I wish I hadn't met them. But in the case of David Bowie, he was so charming. I mean, I was sitting there going, oh my God. Trying to be really cool, talking about, and we had this mad conversation about Russian art movies and ended up talking about EastEnders because he was asking me what was going on in London and what was going on in EastEnders. He was very funny.
I love the normality of it.
Very funny. And I remember I said to him, he asked me about Steve Strange. He goes, where's Steve Strange? So he's living in Wales with his mother, who's got a massive beehive. And he goes, well, you'd need one, wouldn't you, if you're living in Wales? He was very, very funny man.
What a beautiful thing. For that to be like your dream come true and then it's as great as you hoped it would be.
To not be disappointed by,
Absolutely.
Great. It was amazing.
And one final question. What advice would you give to your 1980s self?
Enjoy what's happening. Don't be indifferent. Don't bring anxiety to it, because actually you're lucky, you're in a room with Frank Sinatra. It's like, be there.
Yeah.
Don't zone out and worry about your hat or whatever. So a lot of the things that I used to really worry about when I was younger, just doesn't even come into my mind now. I'm a happy person.
So good to hear and so good to see. The new Boy George album, SE18, is out on CD and vinyl via Elastic Stage. And you can see Boy George with Culture Club headlining at the Uptown Festival in Blackheath on Sunday, July the 27th. Good luck with the album, and it's great to see you.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely interview. Thanks.
This is Hot.